Have you ever felt like you're stuck in a box, limited by what others say you can do? Or maybe you've wondered if there's more to life than what you've been told is possible. Well, today's story is about a group of fleas who thought the same, until one brave flea changed everything. In a lush, green forest, where sunlight filtered through the canopy and birds chirped merrily, there stood an old, forgotten glass jar. The air was filled with the scent of pine and wildflowers, and the jar sat on a bed of soft, green moss. Inside this jar lived a community of fleas, known throughout the insect world for their legendary jumping abilities. But these fleas had a peculiar habit: they never jumped higher than a certain height, believing it was their limit. Long ago, when the jar was first placed in the forest, the fleas tried to escape by jumping as high as they could. But each time, they hit the lid of the jar and fell back down, bruised and discouraged. After many painful attempts, they learned to jump just below the lid, avoiding the sting of collision. Over time, this became their norm. They forgot they could jump much higher. Generations passed, and the story of the high jumps became a legend, told by the elder fleas to the young ones as a cautionary tale. Never jump too high, they would say, or you'll hit the lid and get hurt. The young fleas grew up believing that their jumping height was set by the jar, never questioning why. Among these fleas was a young, curious flea named Fleavert. Unlike the others, Fleavert often wondered about the world beyond the jar. He would stare at the glass walls, imagining what lay outside. What if there's more? He would think. His friends would tease him, saying, "Why bother? We can't go beyond the lid." But Fleavert couldn't shake his curiosity. He watched the shadows of leaves dance on the jar's walls and dreamed of the world beyond. One sunny afternoon, as the fleas were going about their daily routines, jumping from leaf to leaf within the jar, a group of children were playing nearby. Their laughter echoed through the forest, and one of them accidentally threw a small pebble. The pebble struck the jar with a loud clink, causing it to shake violently. The fleas were terrified, clinging to the sides of the jar in fear. But for Fleavert, the shock was so great that he instinctively jumped with all his might. To his amazement, and that of all the other fleas, he sailed right over the lid and landed on a soft patch of moss outside the jar. For a moment, Fleavert lay there, stunned. He felt the cool, damp earth beneath his tiny feet. The sun warmed his back, and a gentle breeze rustled the leaves above. It was a world he had never imagined. The forest stretched out before him, vast and full of possibilities. Then, he remembered his friends still inside the jar. Gathering his courage, he hopped back to the jar and called out, "Hey, everyone. Look, there's no lid anymore. You can jump out too." The fleas inside were hesitant. "But we've always jumped below the lid," said one, a nervous flea named Skittles. "What if we hit it again?" asked another, named Jumper. An elder flea, Old Hopper, shook his head. "We've been told not to jump too high. It's too risky." Fleavert pleaded, "Just try. Jump as high as you can. What's the worst that could happen?" Hesitantly, Skittles took a deep breath and jumped. To her surprise, she cleared the lid and landed beside Fleavert. Jumper followed, his eyes wide with disbelief as he felt the forest floor beneath him. One by one, more fleas tried, their jumps growing bolder with each success. Even Old Hopper, who had spent years preaching caution, took a shaky leap and landed outside, blinking in the sunlight. The fleas cheered, their tiny voices filling the air with excitement. As they stood together on the forest floor, they realized that the lid had never been the true limit. It was just a barrier they had accepted without question. Fleavert looked back at the jar, now empty, and thought, "We were never meant to stay in that jar. There's a whole world out here, waiting for us to explore." The fleas felt a newfound sense of freedom, their hearts light with the knowledge that they could jump higher than they ever dreamed. From that day on, the fleas never forgot their lesson. They ventured into the forest, jumping higher and farther than they ever thought possible, exploring new meadows and climbing blades of grass to see the stars. They told their story to every new generation, reminding them to question the limits they were taught. And whenever one of them felt doubt, they'd look at Fleavert, who had dared to jump first, and they'd try again. So, the next time you feel stuck, like you're trapped in a jar of someone else's making, remember Fleavert and the fleas. Don't let your environment or the expectations of others limit you. You never know what you can achieve until you put your all into it. Explore psychological conditioning, learned helplessness in animals, more vivid descriptions.